So, what do you want to change in your life? Take a second and really think about it. It could be something major, like your career trajectory or your health. Or maybe it's something minor, like just remembering to check in with your parents more often. Now, here's the tougher question. How long has this been going on? For how many months, or honestly, even years, have you woken up and told yourself, okay, today is the day I finally make a change? Look, we all have something we desperately want to change, yet we constantly slam right into the heavy, invisible wall of our own inertia. Welcome to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here. Today, we're exploring a deeply powerful, highly practical framework for adult behavioral change, drawn directly from the best-selling book Triggers by Marshall Goldsmith and Mark Reeder. If you're a focused learner looking to bridge that gap between the person you are right now and the person you actually want to be, well, you are in exactly the right place. So let's dive right into this. Here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at why behavioral change is hard. Second, understanding our daily triggers. Third, how triggers actually work. Fourth, the power of active questions. And finally, creating your daily scorecard. Section 1, Why Behavioral Change is Hard. The Power of Inertia. Before we can fix the problem, we really need to understand why it's so notoriously difficult for us as adults to actually change our ways. Our source material today comes from Marshall Goldsmith. Now, he's a world-renowned executive coach who has literally dedicated his life to helping highly successful people change their deeply ingrained behaviors. And let me tell you, when you're dealing with adults, especially adults who are already pretty successful in life, breaking old habits and forming new ones is an immense challenge. The entire foundation of Goldsmith's work rests on a pretty harsh truth. Meaningful behavioral change is very hard to do. It's hard to initiate, it's even harder to stay the course, and it is absolutely the hardest thing of all to make the change actually stick. In fact, Goldsmith goes so far as to say that adult behavioral change is the most difficult thing for sentient human beings to accomplish. We just vastly underestimate the power of inertia. It takes an extraordinary amount of effort to stop doing something comfortable and start doing something difficult that'll benefit us in the long run. So if you've been struggling with this, validate that struggle right now. It is genuinely hard. Section 2, Understanding Our Daily Triggers. The environment's pull. So to win this fight, we've got to define the enemy. What is a trigger? A trigger is any stimulus that reshapes our thoughts and actions. Think about it. In every waking hour, we are being triggered by people, events, and circumstances. The triggers out there are practically infinite. It could be the smell of bacon wafting from the kitchen that makes you instantly forget your doctor's advice about cholesterol. It could be your phone chirping, or maybe a complaining coworker who totally ruins your mood for the rest of the afternoon. Goldsmith categorizes these stimuli in some fascinating ways. First off, a trigger can be conscious or unconscious. Conscious triggers require awareness. You know exactly why your hand recoils when you touch a hot stove, right? But unconscious triggers shape our behavior completely beyond our awareness. Take the weather, for example. Studies show people consistently report being happier on sunny days than rainy days. Yet when asked, they almost always deny the weather had any impact on their mood. The weather is a classic unconscious trigger. Next up, triggers can be anticipated or unexpected. We can see anticipated triggers coming a mile away. When you hear the national anthem at the start of a sporting event, you absolutely expect a raucous cheer at the end. But unexpected triggers, they sneak up and completely derail our best-laid plans. Goldsmith shares this wild story of a friend who unexpectedly fell down his basement stairs. That terrifying, unexpected moment triggered a massive reevaluation of his life and a sudden, intense desire to just be a better neighbor. But here is the absolute most critical dichotomy of all: productive versus counterproductive triggers. This perfectly expresses that timeless tension between what we want right now versus what we need long-term. Productive triggers push us toward becoming the person we want to be. Counterproductive triggers, they pull us away towards short-term gratification. Now, triggers aren't inherently good or bad. What really matters is our response to them. A bowl of ice cream triggers hunger in one person, but complete disgust in someone who's lactose intolerant. The environment defines the trigger, but we define the response. Section 3, How Triggers Actually Work. Breaking the Loop. So, are we all just robots reacting instantly to the world around us? Well, usually, yes. We get caught in the classic habit loop: antecedent, behavior, consequence. Or, as Charles Duhigg famously calls it, cue, routine, reward. The antecedent, which is the trigger, happens, and we just immediately jump into the behavior. Someone says something rude, and we immediately snap back. We tend to think of a trigger and a response as this uninterrupted, straight line. But right here, this is the absolute turning point of the whole explainer. The terms trigger and response suggest there is no breathing room. That is completely false. Between the trigger and our response, we always have a choice. We can inject a microsecond of hesitation and reflection. Yes, our environment is incredibly powerful. Yes, the triggers are constant. But we are not victims of our environment unless we actively choose to be. Taking personal responsibility is the key to breaking the loop. Section 4. The power of active questions. Taking back control. Most of us evaluate ourselves using passive questions. Things like, were you happy today? Or do you have clear goals? The problem? Passive questions essentially invite excuses that blame the environment. If I ask if you were happy, you can easily say, no, because the airline delayed my flight for 3 hours. See? The airline is at fault. But an active question injects personal ownership. Did I do my best to be happy today? If you answer no to that, you really only have yourself to blame. It measures the effort of trying, regardless of what the world throws at you. Goldsmith actually reverse-engineered this concept to create the 6 engaging questions you should be asking yourself every single day. Did I do my best to set clear goals, to make progress, to find meaning, to be happy, to build positive relationships, to be fully engaged? Notice how every single one starts with, did I do my best to? This simple tweak completely flips how you interact with your world. It forces you to evaluate your personal effort in the key areas of your life, completely stripping away your ability to play the victim. Now, you might be sitting there wondering, okay, but does this actually work? The data says yes, absolutely. Across 79 real-world studies with over 2,500 participants using this framework for just 10 working days, the results were staggering. 37% of participants reported improvement in all 6 areas, 65% improved on at least 4 items, and only 11% didn't see a change on any items. Let me just highlight this one incredible statistic for you to really put it in perspective. 89% of the people who used this simple active questioning framework improved on at least 1 item. That is nearly 9 out of 10 people. Given human nature's deep reluctance to change, this proves that active self-questioning is literally a game changer. It sharpens your sense of what you can actually control, revealing where you're trying and where you're just, well, giving up. Anyone can try this, and as the data shows, almost anyone will succeed. Section 5. Creating your daily scorecard. Track your effort. To make this a daily practice, you can use a super simple spreadsheet, just like Marshall Goldsmith does himself. He actually pays someone to call him every single day to run through his list, but hey, you don't need a caller. A spreadsheet works just fine. He lists his active questions down the side, and across the top are the days of the week. He grades himself daily on a 1 to 10 scale, with 10 being the absolute best score for effort. By tracking his weekly averages on the far right, he forces himself to confront his effort honestly over time. All right, here is your actionable checklist to build your own scorecard tonight. Step 1. Pick your core "did I do my best to" questions. Start with those 6 engaging questions we just discussed, and maybe add a few personal ones. Things like, did I do my best to exercise today? Or did I do my best to be a good partner? Step 2. Grade yourself daily on that 1 to 10 scale. Step 3. Track your trends over time so you can actually see your weekly averages. And step 4, adapt the list. If you perfect a behavior, drop it and add a brand new challenge. Keep evolving. As we wrap up this explainer today, I want to leave you with this final, truly provocative thought from the text. It is tough to face the reality of our own behavior and our own level of effort every day. It is not easy to look in the mirror and admit you scored a 2 out of 10 on trying to be happy. But that raw honesty, that is the bedrock of real change. So the question is, are you ready to stop blaming the environment and start measuring your own effort starting today? Build your scorecard, ask yourself the active questions, and take back control of your triggers. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I absolutely cannot wait to see the changes you make.